Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Right, it'll be the first one I've ever presented, so forgive me all my mistakes. And for those of you joining us, thank you for putting in time so close to the end of the year. I know we're all in holiday wind down mode and all that kind of stuff. We've got plenty of people attending at the moment. We'll have a bit of polls and Q&As throughout the session, so feel free to interact with some of those and put your answers in so we can get some feedback. But yeah, look, we're all hearing about AI and what's available for businesses today, right? There's plenty of hype on social media of robots doing dishes and video content of, I suppose, things that look more fit for a dream than reality in a lot of cases. But we want to talk about what's affordable and available for us today, right? First and foremost, I want to thank everyone who's come to join me and help speak. I certainly could not fill 1 hour of content myself. For those of you who don't know me personally, I'm the managing partner at CCP. I've been here for about 16 years. I've been in the IT industry for 25. I'm all self-taught from the ground up, and I learn from like making and breaking things. And that's how I've learned things with AI, is just trying stuff until it works. We've got Ksenia here as well, and Michael Brook from Crayon. Ksenia is the business success manager at Crayon, has had 10 years at Microsoft, is amazing at driving technology and adoptions and enhancing security, is a webinar pro as well, has done this many, many times. So her section should go much more smoother than mine. Michael's got 25 years of experience, a cybersecurity consultant, with vendors like Quest, CyberArk, Symantec, and is now with Crayon, working with a lot of the Microsoft tools as well. Dina is joining us from Filenote. She is the 2024 Women in Health Tech Innovator of the Year finalist, co-founder and director of Filenote.AI, a very prestigious person indeed. If you're a financial advisor and you need AI advice, she is the go-to. We've also got Hayley Tulich from Lyrebird Health. She's one of Lyrebird Health's first hires. She works alongside healthcare professionals to save time, increase the quality of patient care, and I think we can all agree we'd love to spend 33% less time in a doctor's waiting room. So thank you for your service. Just going over what we're covering today. We're going to have a quick chat about the state of AI readiness. So a couple of those numbers around, I suppose, how ready do business managers feel they are, and AI use in the business today, even if you don't know it. What AI is good for today versus what it's not good for. Right, we'll have a demonstration of Microsoft 365 Copilot, Filenote.AI, which is a fantastic tool if you're in the financial advice sector. Lyrebird Health is fantastic if you're in the medical field. And even if you're not in one of these specific industries, it's going to give you a good view of what can be done for other industries. There'll be plenty of other AI platforms out there for your specific industry too. We'll then have a chat about data governance and security, and then how to get AI ready. And yes, I am burying the playbook at the end. And then we'll have a bit of a special Copilot offer for you as well. So if we take a look at AI readiness in Australia, believe it or not, there's about 75% of knowledge workers already using AI, even if they've not been trained, even if the bosses don't know about it, right? I have certainly walked into organizations myself and seen employees with an extra tab open of Chat GPT asking it a bunch of questions to help them do their job. And then you go and ask the owner, hey, do you guys use AI inside of your business? And they go, no, we don't do any of that yet, right? And yet 92% of Australian organizations acknowledge the need to look into AI improvements and technologies over the last year. And yet 4% of businesses, only 4%, are prepared or feel they are prepared to adopt and optimize for AI capabilities. So there's a real disconnect between use and being ready for it, right? So in short, AI, what is it good for? Right? It's really, really good in the affordable space for things like summarization, categorization, classification, things like pattern recognition, text and image generation, language processing, things like meeting notes and all that kind of stuff, right? In the end, what does that mean, right? I have clients, for example, with procedures stored inside of SharePoint or other data repositories, but we all know that our filing structures have a lot to be decided, right? You put files in places that you think make sense, and your employee comes along and they say, I can't find it. You know, you could have a chatbot that knows about your policies, procedures, has access to that data, and then your new employee can come in and ask the chatbot, you know, what policies do we have around, say, leave requests? And it will pull the relevant information out. It'll give you the policies. It might even link to a leave request form, right? It's all based around things like context, not necessarily keywords, which makes search via a chatbot really, really efficient. It's also really great at content generation as well. We've all seen it. Video generation, image generation. I think social media is infected with just AI generated posts directly. I had an interesting use case where during a consult, the client was concerned about, I suppose, the types of messages that were going out via email, right? Everyone has their own writing style. Some of them are a bit more brash than others, and they wanted to have a more consistent writing style. And so, you know, we're solving that problem with Copilot prompt books. So the staff member can write it in their own way. They can, with AI, tell it to rewrite that email in like the language and tone of the business. And so that gives them a consistent messaging output and I suppose a better customer service experience. It's also really great at meeting transcriptions. We'll get into a lot of that information from some of the speakers today. I had a scenario for this. It doesn't even necessarily have to be meetings. It can be any sort of audio or video recording where I had to do an employee probation review, which usually takes me about 4 hours of preparation of like listening to phone calls and all that kind of stuff. But with AI, made that job take about 30 minutes. Right. So in my example, I gave a local private AI about 15 hours of recordings, had it transcribe them and summarize them. And then I passed those transcriptions in bulk over to Microsoft 365 Copilot and said, here's a bunch of transcripts. From a performance and probation review point, can you assess these transcripts? And are any worth looking at or listening to for customer service or technical skills? Give me like the top 5 calls that show the strengths and the top 5 calls that show areas for improvement. And while it didn't give me the perfect results the first time, it did narrow down me having to listen to a lot of calls and scrub through them to picking just 10. And yeah, turn that process into a very short 30-minute task, which was fantastic. And this is the first AI-generated slide for you. But next, we're going to go into a little bit of a showcase of some of those tools that are out there from Copilot for Microsoft 365, Filenote.AI, and Lyrebird Health. So I'd love to hand it over to you, Ksenia from Crayon, to have a chat to us about 365 Copilot.
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction, Tim. Hi, everyone. I am a business success manager with Crayon, like Tim mentioned, and I talk about AI probably about for 60% of my day every day now because it is such a huge tool that's launched and is used by virtually everybody, and everyone's curious about it. So I will tell you a little bit more about Microsoft 365 Copilot today, which is Microsoft's generative AI based on Chat GPT. And they do like to give all of their products mission statements. So for Copilot, it's, turn your words into the most powerful productivity tool on the planet. So it uses the large language model. It uses Microsoft Graph, which is how it can access, your data and your work files. It is integrated in all of your Microsoft 365 apps that you use every day, and it is using the power of the internet, similar to, Chat GPT, to give you the results. I'll go through a couple of statistics just to show you kind of why people are thinking about AI and where it can help you get that efficiency that Tim mentioned earlier. But, on the kind of not negative, but the reason why people would use AI is, a lot of leaders say that there's a lack of innovation or breakthrough ideas, and it's a concern for them. And a lot of people are also struggling now to find that time and energy to get all of their work done. And I know I'm certainly one of those people, but with all of the meetings that we're doing and all of the hybrid work and all of the emails, it's hard to find time to be creative or to do kind of more impactful work. And over 70% of people have indicated that they would like to delegate as much as possible of that kind of admin work to AI. If you want to read more about how they've arrived at those sorts of results, there's a link to the Work Trend Index and all of the research papers and how they've kind of arrived at those numbers. But from people who have been using Copilot, 68% said that Copilot has improved the quality of their work because it allowed them to focus more on kind of what they can add to it and how they can enhance it rather than, again, as Tim mentioned earlier, getting all of the information and researching and putting it together. 70% said Copilot has made them more productive, and 77% said, they don't want to give it up now that they're using it. And just a little bit more statistics for you. From people who are actually using it, 64% said they spend less time processing email. 71% said that they save time on their mundane tasks. 75% said that they save time finding the files that they need. And I'm sure you've seen that before, where you remember someone shared a document. You don't remember, was it an email? Was it a Teams message? And what it was called. And 85% said that they get to a good first draft a lot faster. And you could see Tim even give us that example earlier, or a couple of examples even. So every percentage is very high, so you can see how quickly it is creating impact to your individual productivity and kind of your day-to-day. And here's some of the more specific examples of the value and the ROI you can get, using generative AI and Copilot. From the productivity and creativity scenario, you get the time savings. You're maximizing the value of kind of the software and subscriptions you're using, so the Microsoft 365 suite, and it is letting you focus on what's important in the business growth. From optimizing your business processes, you get that operational efficiency, and that results in you having increased revenue and cost saving because you have processes that work better, work faster, and are more efficient. And Copilot also lets you stay in control of your data, so you do get that data and customer protection. It is easy to manage, as you'll see a bit later, and it inherits all of your Microsoft 365 security and policies. Jumping forward, and it's an iteration of the first slide I've shown you. Large language models plus your company data. And adding to that, it is best-in-class data protection. Gartner's just announced Microsoft to be again in the top security providers list for them. And Copilot Studio is another thing worth mentioning, where it allows you to not just use Copilot for your day-to-day tasks in your applications, but then to start customizing Copilot to your specific business processes and line of business solutions as well. Give you some examples of how you can experience Copilot in Microsoft 365 apps. So first thing worth mentioning will be the graph-grounded chat. I think they've renamed it to BizChat now, because Microsoft does like to change up the names of their products. But it essentially is kind of your command hub. It is where you can ask it any questions about any of your data. It can access and do some functionalities of every application. So when you're doing research or you're asking questions, or you're doing multi-application, processes, that's where it comes in. And then Copilot in Teams, that's where we're having, our chats or meetings, and it helps you get accurate transcripts and meeting notes and help you draft follow-ups, prepare for meetings as well, and find any information that you need. For example, you can be late to a meeting and you can join it and you can ask Copilot, hey, can you catch me up? What did I miss up until now? Was my name mentioned, etc., and kind of get that information. Copilot in Outlook lets you answer your emails, summarize your emails, when you get added to a thread and you need to scroll down and understand like, why was I added to this thread? And helps you kind of get through your inbox faster. Copilot in Word, that's where you do most of your creative work. And by creative, I mean not just, marketing, but things like RFPs, things like even drafting contracts or reports, but that's where you put together kind of written Word. Copilot in PowerPoint helps you put all of that into a visual presentation. I've used it quite a bit. Copilot in Excel. And if you haven't used it in Excel, I love it. I look at data quite a bit. I look at propensity quite a bit, and it really helps you sort out the data and get insights and generate formulas a lot quicker. So even if it's something that you know how to do, the time savings are very tangible. And then, Copilot, OneNote, Loop, and Whiteboard are probably a little bit less prominent, but if you do use any of those products, it is excellent in them as well. So I thought what I'd do is I'll actually give you a couple of role-specific examples of how you can use Copilot across different applications to accomplish a specific task. So this is an example for a legal industry. You're doing a contract review using Microsoft 365 Copilot, and you start with BizChat. So you actually ask it to summarize an email thread about understanding the memorandum you're looking at, and use a bunch of references to jump to the email to get more context. So let's say you have multiple emails between different stakeholders. You asked it that question. When Copilot gives you a reply, it's going to cite where it got those replies to. So if you click on those citations, you can jump directly into the email and familiarize yourself with the rest of the context. But it helps you narrow down kind of long-winded email threads and get you that essential information straight away. Then, you jump into Outlook and you will use Copilot to ask it to respond to the email with a few suggestions for updates on that memorandum, and then ask the contact to submit the legal review platform. So what it will get that professional draft really quickly, and then you can massage it and edit it however you want, but it'll give you all of that first draft in one go, and you can refine it. So it should speed up the process. And I don't know about you, but like I hate answering emails when I have like 50 emails to answer, and a lot of them are asking the same thing, and you're starting to kind of think, oh, how else can I answer this? That's where it really comes in. And you can go back to business chat. You can ask Copilot for more specific details from complex contract documents that you have in your SharePoint. And you can ask to summarize the key contract terms, especially with terms and conditions being usually very long-winded and very technical. It's really great to be able to summarize it very quickly and speed up that contract review that you're working on. And then you can go into Teams and you could say, hey, Copilot, can you actually create a brief for the legal counsel to use from the notes that I've made so I can prepare for the meeting with the customer? And you can summarize these existing relationships and interactions that we've had, so I know what I'm talking about and I don't forget to mention anything important. You can then catch up on review meeting. You can use the recap in Teams to understand the key items that have been discussed. And you can ask Copilot to create a report with a list of all of the contract updates that have been discussed and that are required. And then you can compare the two agreements. You can ask Copilot to look at the previous agreement. You can cite the new agreement with the changes, and it's going to create a comparison table and include any areas that are addressed in one agreement but not the other, and what's similar between them. So that's kind of how you can use it in a legal process flow, looking at a very involved technical, legal documentation that's really dry and I find for myself at least hard to follow easily, and usually spend quite a bit of time on something like that, just trying to absorb all the information. And the other example, I have for you is marketing. So a little bit more fun. You can use it to do a product launch. So you use Copilot Business Chat with Copilot Studio, where it, potentially ties into your marketing engine like Marketo or CRM. And you can ask Copilot to gather market research data. So you can understand your target customer. You can enrich your data with your own customer data platform and get those insights. Then you can use Copilot and Word to actually craft your messaging and leverage the insights you've just gathered to draft a strategy document for brand awareness. And it'll make it really quick first draft for you with all of the required details and contextual information that hopefully is much closer to that final output that you're looking for. And then you can continue iterating with Copilot where it's a conversational AI, right? So you keep adding new things to it or giving it feedback and it'll adjust that draft for you to be closer to what you're looking for. Then you jump into PowerPoint, you ask Copilot to put together a PowerPoint presentation to present your plan to the leadership team and summarize the meeting action items to ensure that you have a successful product rollout. So it'll create a deck for you in PowerPoint. It can use your branded PowerPoint templates. And then you jump into a Teams call, you present the deck it's just created, and you get Copilot to get you all of the notes and all of the feedback from that leadership team that you just spoke to. Then you jump back into Word and you use all of the above that you've gathered, all of the feedback, the brief that you drafted, the research, and you can ask Copilot to draft a compelling press release about the new product and the value proposition. Then you jump into Outlook, use Copilot to draft an email to your team to leverage the content from the strategy document and any other project notes that you have to share that information with them. And then continue using Copilot to develop the rest of any kind of marketing assets that you need. Any, social postings or email messaging that you will share with your customers to promote that product launch. So those are the two examples I had. Hopefully it gave you a little bit of an idea of how you can combine all of the different functionalities and different applications into a specific task you're trying to accomplish. It's not just, I want to do something in Word and you just jump into Word and it's isolated. You do jump from application to application and it's very dynamic and it helps you kind of accomplish any project or task that you're working on. And that kind of leads us to how do we build onto that value journey with Copilot. We all start with the bottom of the pyramid. We start with the individual value, any specific day-to-day tasks that we have in different applications for ourselves. We start gaining that efficiency and productivity and save time. And once, your entire business kind of is familiar with Copilot and have improved their individual productivity, you start thinking, okay, so on the departmental level, how do I bring value to each department? Am I going to create some very specific prompts that people can reuse or multi-turn prompts? Can I leverage Copilot Studio to create specific solutions for some of our business processes? And so you can start extending that usage to role-based processes within your business. Let's say you have a customer support team and you've created a chatbot for them to be able to effectively address customer concerns and get the necessary information. And then you could start thinking from the greater business perspective. How do I now extend my line of business? And you start building business copilots. You could be internal, they could be customer facing, but they just address more of your complex internal process flows and really start gaining you that efficiency and accuracy and time saving with Copilot. And Copilot doesn't just exist in Microsoft 365. Microsoft does have Copilot in all of their cloud experiences, right? So if you've ever used Dynamics, if you use Power Platform, or if you use Power BI, they have integrated Copilot experiences to assist you there. So there's quite a few different Copilot products to complement their offerings. So if you are interested in using them with your everyday products, that's something that you can speak to your IT or your managed services provider about, and then start kind of getting into using generative AI in your business. And even if you kind of don't have a lot of interest in using generative AI, it is still worth thinking about and talking about within your business. I have some statistics here, and then Microsoft shared it with us. And I think you can even find a lot of white papers from the Australian government and just generally from different universities on AI. But over 78% of AI users use what Microsoft calls bring your own AI. So even if you don't provide an AI tool to your employees and you've banned use of AI at work, 75% of employees are doing something like Chat GPT on a personal account or, another AI, and they're bringing their own AI to work. And a lot of organizations, over 97%, are concerned that they lack protection. They don't understand what AI might do to their data or what the unknown use of AI will do, to their customer information potentially. So they do have those concerns about implementing AI and how can they be secure with it. And another thing that Microsoft has highlighted is by 2027, at least one global company will see that its AI deployment has been banned by a regulator. And even though I don't think currently there are any AI regulations, I know certainly the Australian government is talking about it, and there will be some legislation with regards to AI. So it is worth thinking about how to compliantly implement AI into your business. So when those regulations do come out, you are already compliant with them and you're ahead of the game and you can continue to use it within your business. And how can Copilot help you with that? Well, your business data is protected. So your user and business data will not go outside of your organization. Microsoft doesn't have any visibility to it. It is not used to train the model. None of the chat data is saved. So anything that you have within your business that Copilot is using is yours and no one else can see it. And Microsoft also applies their responsible AI principles to Copilot. And, it makes sure that they give you as much transparency and information on the privacy aspect and how they ensure that that does happen. And that leads me to my last slide and how Copilot takes advantage of the rest of the Microsoft security stack. Like I mentioned very briefly earlier, it does inherit any security that you have in place from Microsoft. So any, data governance or loss prevention policies, any user access policies you have, Copilot will inherit. So if I, as a user, can't see a document and I use Copilot, Copilot will not be able to see that document. So we'll talk about it a bit later at the end with Michael, but you do have a lot of tools to stay secure and compliant with Copilot and Microsoft. But that's everything I had to share, and I'll pass back on to Tim, and let me know if you have any questions or drop them into the Q&A section.
Thank you, Ksenia. I think we didn't click through some of those slides, or it got stuck on one of them. That's all right. You spoke about it in excellent detail anyway, so everything was covered there anyway. But yes, no, I'd like to introduce Dina from Filenote.AI, who will talk to you about their AI tool, which is available today for, I suppose you're after financial planners and financial advisors, is that right, Dina?
Yeah, so it's specifically designed for financial advisors.
Perfect. I'll let you run with it.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, everyone, for coming along. So just a bit of background in terms of who we are, just to set the scene. We're experts in automation and AI, and we specialize in wealth management, as Tim just mentioned. So I'll walk through what our solution is, how it works, and show you an example of the artifact. But in terms of our current position in the market, we've got over 1,000 advisors using the solution. And certainly if you have any questions post this, please let me know. I'll start with the problem we're trying to solve. So basically, I've met many advisors. I don't think I've met one that enjoys writing file notes. What we're hearing from advisors is they're looking for ways to save time. They want to free up their headspace. They want to remain present in meetings and also in firms where there's more than just one advisor. They want to drive a consistent way of generating these artifacts, which AI certainly helps with. So in terms of what the solution is, what we're doing is for meetings that are recorded between clients and advisors, or some advisors self-dictate, but what we're basically doing is automatically generating artifacts that they would manually have to produce. So for all meetings that are recorded, we're automatically generating file notes, and we have different templates that we've designed for the different meeting types. We're automatically generating a client summary email, which is a nice way to close a loop with clients after a meeting, and also a full meeting transcript. So that's generated for every meeting. And in addition to that, we're also able to automatically generate other artifacts as well, which again are designed for advisors. And some of these are automated notes to the paraplanner, automated letters of engagement, and automated client mind maps. So the idea is not only how do we save time, but how do we generate these a lot quicker than we were previously, or advisors could previously do manually, and get them to clients quicker as well. So with that said, in terms of how it works, when we were designing this, advisors said a few things to us. They said, keep it simple or we won't use it, which was good, clear direction. They said to us, our client data is of utmost importance. You guys cannot keep the client data. And I believe we're the only provider that does not store any of the client data or the recording. And they also said to us, quality is of utmost importance. And so we're using the best available base models in terms of AI to ensure that the output is as good as it can be. So from an advisor point of view, all they need to do is record the meeting. So we have a way for them to do that, whether it's face-to-face or online. Once they record the meeting, that's all they need to do. They don't need to upload that anywhere. What will happen is we will automatically retrieve a temporary link to that recording that we have access to for 60 minutes. We generate the output for them, and then we send that to them via email, or we can upload it to their SharePoint or their OneDrive. To bring that to life, I'll share an example. You can't really see it, but basically what it does is we capture the crucial information and we categorize it into key categories relevant to an advisor. So for example, action items, you've got investment related information, insurance related information, and it captures all the crucial information into buckets. It's produced in a Word document so they can make amendments and tweaks as needed. And a key call out from a change management point of view is you don't need to change how you run your meeting. So you would run it as you normally do, and the solution's smart enough to put the right information into the right areas. With that said, where I will finish up is talking about how it's a little bit different to other more generic solutions, which are also useful, but not necessarily designed for advisors. So when we designed Filenote.AI, we really wanted to design something that was specific to the needs of advisors. So it recognizes advisor terminology, and we've tailored the output to suit the needs of an advisor. So it's really how do we maximize the time saving for an advisor. The quality of the output, again, we're using the best available base models in terms of AI to ensure the quality is as good as it can be. And where we're a little bit different is we can also customize the templates to suit the needs, whether it's a licensee or whether it's the firm that has custom template requirements. We can certainly tailor the templates to suit their needs. From an implementation point of view, it's very easy. You basically click record and you get your output automatically. So it's low change management. And again, we don't store any data. So that's another point of differentiation. If there's any interest, there's some information here around how to sign up to our 21-day free trial, or if you'd like to schedule a demo to learn more, feel free to. But essentially, our solution's been designed to save advisors time. So with that said, I'll hand it back to Tim, who will introduce the next speaker. Thank you.
Yeah, so a little heads up for you, Hayley. Don't use the laser pointer tool, apparently. That's what gets us stuck on slides. So that's all good. But yes, everyone, I'd like to introduce Hayley from Lyrebird Health, helping everyone out in the, I suppose, medical industry and the healthcare industry. I'll let you take it away.
Thanks so much, Tim. And yes, everyone in the chat, let me know if you can't actually see these slides. And Tim, feel free to interrupt him if we do have any issues moving forward. But thanks everyone for joining. I'm super excited to share with you a little bit more on AI in the medical industry and its applications to help the healthcare space and the impacts that we're seeing so far. So I've been with Lyrebird since essentially, the very beginning. Have seen Lyrebird go from, those first couple of doctors that we were helping to now scale to, thousands, tens of thousands of doctors all over the world and even into hospitals as well. So I'll be focusing today on it was an excellent segue from Dina's presentation with AI specific to helping financial advisors, as Lyrebird is specific to assist doctors in their efficiency of workflow and really bring that focus back to patient care. So Lyrebird essentially is an AI medical scribe. So we help doctors save time on their clinical documentation so that they can focus more on what actually matters, which is the patient. Now, Lyrebird was essentially created because on average, GPs, and this does extend to any other fields of practice as well, spend approximately 1 to 2 hours per day on paperwork. And Lyrebird was actually founded because our founding team had a very similar experience with this type of problem where one was diagnosed with a chronic heart condition and needed to see a specialist quite urgently. What they were presented with was a waiting list of at least 12 months when they actually really needed to see that specialist quite immediately and quite urgently. Upon digging a bit deeper and chatting to a bunch of healthcare professionals and also having a lot of clinical family members and connections, it uncovered this massive problem of how much time is spent, clinicians are spending on things that aren't seeing patients. So that's essentially what we're here to do at Lyrebird, is to automate any task and any paperwork that is not focused on providing patient care. And so how we actually do this is by listening in the background to a doctor and patient consultation. So doctor doesn't have to change anything about how they consult. Everything will go on as normal. Lyrebird will just sit in the background and essentially transcribe those notes for the doctor. Once those notes have generated, they will filter out any of the general chit chat, so doctors don't have to change anything about how they consult. You can still build that rapport with the patients, can still do everything you would typically do. And at the end, rather than doctors furiously typing notes, during the consult or even afterwards, once the patient has left, often we are seeing doctors stay, until 8 p.m. Or even later in the clinic once patients have left because they really want to focus on the patient in the consult. Next slide there. Now, this is an example of the notes Lyrebird will generate. So essentially, once that consult has been done, Lyrebird will translate that voice into text, will filter out anything that's not medically relevant, and format a lovely clinical note for that doctor that is only focused on the key relevant information that has been verbalized, and also ensure that it was only things that are verbalized that is actually taken down. So Lyrebird, our intention is not to replace the doctor at all. It is only to transcribe what has been verbalized so that the doctor can focus more on the patient and not typing at the same time. From those notes that are generated on the left, they can then be used to write any associated supporting documentation that the doctor might need. So for example, a referral to a specialist, a mental health care plan, a patient summary, any document that a doctor might need, you're able to generate on Lyrebird. You can also upload any previous examples to Lyrebird of your notes and your documents so that you can teach your Lyrebird to sound more like you. Now, how this works on a bit more of a granular level. So we are listening in the background and only transcribing what is spoken into text. This then combined with AI and our specific instructions and our medically trained model will then output that note to reflect your certain style and preferences. Now, over time, Lyrebird is not training any model on your patient information. Anything that is generated on Lyrebird is completely redacted of all patient identifying information. and only save to Lyrebird if you actually choose to save it. Our intention is to really increase those efficiencies and have that information transferred to the patient's file on the medical record. We do not store any information forever, but what we do over time is as you get more, as you upload more examples and fine-tune your templates and customize your account, that then reduces the amount the doctor does need to edit, only needs to essentially review and transfer those notes across into the patient file. Now, along with the time saving and admin efficiencies, there are plenty of other main benefits and key points of focus that we're really aiming to achieve with Lyrebird. So the first one is definitely admin efficiency. We've seen an average of 45 minutes to 2 hours saved per day per doctor on admin tasks. So they can see, more patients per day. If they were running behind, wait times are reducing. We're also seeing just a reduce in clinician burnout, which is a massive problem and also one of the main focuses that Lyrebird does aim to reduce. From a medico-legal perspective, gone are the days where, we're two-finger typing with only 2 lines of notes because we're running late for the next patient. Lyrebird does, from a medico-legal perspective, really ensure that a rich and full and detailed clinical note is taken for every patient. On the clinician wellbeing side, we're seeing doctors go home on time, able to have dinner with their families again, able to not have to catch up on notes on letters on a weekend or a Sunday. My favorite outcome was I had a doctor's husband call me and say, "Hayley, we've been able to watch a midweek movie." And that was he was the owner of a clinic where his wife was trying out Lyrebird, and she would always be too tired to be able to, watch anything during the week. She'd either fall asleep or be up late doing notes. So those are really, yes, the admin efficiencies are a game changer. Clinician burnout is also a massive focus for us. And finally, patient care. Lyrebird is radically changing the way that doctors are able to engage with their patients. We've now got pediatricians playing on the floor with their patients, and we've got happier doctors being able to engage on a more meaningful level with their patients and deliver better care. Now, what this looks like from a business standpoint, my favorite example is one of our early users, Sean Stevens, who does run his own practice here in Melbourne. And Sean, throughout his time with Lyrebird, has actually seen a lot of business ROI as well. So, for example, being able to increase billings by 34% by implementing Lyrebird, reducing wait times for his patients and for his clinic overall by 30%, and running on time because all of that documentation is done by the time the patient leaves the room. So Sean here is saving on average around 4 hours per week and has implemented Lyrebird throughout his whole practice and has probably been our top referrer to date as well. But, rather than just the individual clinician benefits, from a practice standpoint, a lot of business efficiencies that can come with, implementing a solution like this. Now, for us, privacy and security is always at the forefront and is the most important to us as well. So a couple of key points for Lyrebird, but also for any scribe out there that's really important that security is at the forefront for them as well. Some key points are that, Lyrebird and all scribes should be fully compliant with Australia's privacy principles. For Lyrebird, data is only saved if the clinician does choose to save it to Lyrebird. So you can use it completely anonymously and have no record of those consults and transcripts happening if they're just transferred over to the medical record. For Lyrebird, all data is processed and only stored if the clinician chooses to within Australia, on Australian soils, on our servers in Sydney. And our data as well, all our processes, all our encryption has the highest level of security possible, and is definitely something to look out for with any type of solution that you're looking at, and as well was echoed by Ksenia too, as well as Dina. But I think the final thing that I'll leave you with is it is incredibly powerful what AI can do, and especially when applied to certain industries and certain fields of practice within the medical industry as well. But I think I want to bring it back to helping demystify this technology. You know, similar to the other speakers here, who've highlighted that our aim is to transcribe what is said. You know, we're not at the moment the technology might be able to go into this space, but we are not intending to replace the doctor and the work they do, just be a really powerful tool to enable them to focus on what really matters. We're not going into diagnosing, at least not yet. All of that does need to remain within the clinician. But if any of this was at all interesting or you'd like to chat further, you can scan that QR code and pop in your details. Regardless of if it's a partnership, you want to just learn more, or you have know a doctor that might be able to benefit from something like this, always feel free to reach out to us. And Lyrebird isn't necessarily just applicable to the GP space or the specialist space. We also work a lot with allied health and physios as well. So anyone who is a medical professional who does have to take notes, if they're a little bit behind or you're waiting a bit too long for their appointment, feel free to send my details to them as well. But Tim, I might hand it over to you for Michael.
Thank you, Haley. Yeah, I see some of the attendees in here, and I think it would be a good use for some of them, or at least people they can refer you on to. And look at that, bunch of more professional speakers than myself. So I'll just throw out one last poll before I hand it over to you, Michael, because it might be relevant to you. For those of you who had problems answering in the poll, just dismiss it if you can't do it. But I'd love to know, I suppose, if you guys have existing concerns using AI tools. So that'll pop up very shortly. And then I'll hand that over to you, Michael.
Thanks. Thanks, Tim. The topics today have all been around use cases of artificial intelligence, specifically generative AI and large language models, which do actually have the opportunity to make what we do easier and faster. And I'm getting a lot of value out of it personally. So I just want to talk a little bit about securing it and some of the considerations that we really need to look at when we want to deploy generative AI in our organization, things like your Copilot for 365. So firstly, there is actually a really big opportunity here for us. And I think Haley mentioned it just in the previous slides. The technology is not transformative. It's not going to take your job away, because it relies on what you put into it to be able to get the data back. And you actually need to be able to be very good at creating prompts to get the best out of it. So there is a really big opportunity for us that take it and adopt it early to make big changes to our business that will make us faster and more responsive. So on the side of how data is used, if we're talking about Copilot for M365, which is Microsoft's productivity version of Copilot, you've probably come across it several times. The use case for this, and the reason it's so powerful, is that it's using your data. It's using the stuff that you've got in SharePoint. It's using what you have in Teams, Outlook, those OneDrive, the platforms that you use every day, and they only have corporate data. So unlike Chat GPT, that's going off and finding you an answer from all sorts of data sources, a Copilot becomes super useful because it's just your stuff. So that makes the prompts that come back useful to you. But one of the considerations is it's really designed for that cloud side. So it's designed for your M365 platform, as I said, Teams, SharePoint, those platforms that are in the cloud. It's not doing anything with your on-premise file servers. And this is actually quite positive because they tend to have a lot of archive, old legacy data that you may not want to have in the platform either. So one of the considerations is you don't really want legacy information that's going to infect, we could say, and infect the results. If you are building a new contract and you say, Copilot, can you generate me a contract that is based on this particular contract we've already generated? You don't want it to have old data in there. You want to have the most current. So make sure that the data that it's using for training is current and what you've got. Let's go to the next slide. So if we're looking at the responsible deployment, we obviously have a lot of power that is in the platform, but we also have responsibility to make sure that we don't get the wrong data ingested and we don't end up with any sorts of issues. So to do this, we'll go through some areas here that will give you some ideas. Reach out to Tim when you have questions around this. So that's what Tim is really good at, is being able to help you through these areas. These are not things that you need to go away and say, I can't adopt this yet, it's too complicated. These are the considerations that are actually going to help you as a business also move towards a more cyber resilient policy as well. So helping your business overall get to where you should be looking to get to if you're not already there from a cybersecurity perspective. So firstly, we'll look at where the data is stored, because in a lot of industries, we need to make sure that data is housed within Australia or on our shores. We'll look a little bit at identity security as well, some data security policies, some app security policies, and then some device policies as well. So firstly, data sovereignty, important because you want to make sure that the data is stored within Australia and that no data goes offshore. Ksenia mentioned this around Copilot 365, and Hayley did too when she was talking about Lyrebird. Making sure that that data is retained within your tenant, or only has your information, is not being shared outside, is super important. And Copilot for 365 absolutely supports this. The only time that anything gets sent out of your tenant is if you are also ingesting internet search information into the results that you want your users to be able to see with it. Next is identity, and you will have heard, your partners are telling you need to have multi-factor authentication. You need to do these basics to keep your organization secure. Why is this important when we're talking about an AI technology? Well, somebody that has access to a credential to get into your business can actually run a query and just ask for all of the documents that relate to financial records to be retrieved. And if they had the permissions for that, they would end up with information that you really don't want them to have. So those identity basics, making sure that users, when they leave, are deleted, that users have the least amount of access that they need to do their job, and making sure that you don't have too many admin users, are all going to help make sure that identities within your organization are secure. Helps you from your security posture, also helps with a good and safe deployment of AI. Next is data security, and here we're looking at the information that we're going to use within Copilot. We want to make sure that the permissions are correct on all of that information. So I have worked with organizations before that set up SharePoint. They were small, 5-10 users. Everybody had access to everything. Now they're 700 users, and everybody still has access to everything. That is a problem when we're looking at adopting a Copilot or an artificial intelligence, generative AI, large language model, because everything that is available there could be retrieved by anybody doing the search. So we want to make sure that we have the right access to data within our organization. Luckily, with Copilot, you could limit it and just say, look at my Teams data or look at my email data if you want. But if you want to get the most use out of it, you're going to have it accessing everything that Michael Brook has access to within Crayon. I should be able to use that to make or to generate good responses and get good information back. So last is looking at old data, and I do the same thing. I keep everything. I've got emails that go back years and years. When we're thinking about how that could impact generative AI, some of that information isn't relevant anymore. A lot of the information actually shouldn't even be in our environments anymore. So it is a good opportunity for you to start looking at how we classify the data we've got in our organization, and maybe we archive data off, has a benefit of saving you some money, but also making sure you don't have information you shouldn't. And there are a lot of bullet points here, but these are the sorts of things that Tim helps with, is actually making sure that you can get to a good position here. Nextly, application security is important because it's the application that gives us access to the data being the lifeblood of the organization. So again, it's about this permissioning, making sure that the right people have access in SharePoint, that you don't have everybody in the organization as an administrator of SharePoint, because if you have access to something, then Copilot would be able to bring that back to you. And your manager or your manager's manager might happen to have saved a salary document in a folder that you have access to, but you've never seen it because you didn't know it was available. So it's just making sure that you've got those sorts of things in place, as well as just the basic rules. If you're an organization based in Perth, make sure that users can't log in from the United States or from Russia or China or somewhere else under normal circumstances, because again, if they get into an application and that application has Copilot access, then they can retrieve results that they really shouldn't be able to. And last but not least there, and it was mentioned earlier, I think Tim mentioned it at the beginning, if there's two elements. One is that if your users have access to use Chat GPT, they probably will, and they will copy and paste corporate data into Chat GPT to get the response that they want. That data is now used for training and is now available to other people out on the internet. So you really want to make sure that getting access to Chat GPT, Google Gemini, other large language models that are available is not just something that anybody in your organization can do. So have some sort of web filtering set up on that application side. Last but not least, device security is so super important. Making sure that all of the devices in your organization are at a particular operating system level, because hackers don't tend to use the same version of operating system that you do. Making sure that your users are not local admins unless they absolutely need to. All of these sorts of normal device security policies are going to help reduce the impact and potential for someone external to get into your organization. Maybe use Copilot to get information out that they want, but also it's actually going to help your general overall security posture as a business. And again, just to reiterate, these are the sorts of things that Tim helps you with. And then finally, I like this quote, because if you don't adopt large language model capabilities, you actually end up moving backwards, because everything else is moving forward so quickly, and being able to modernize and being able to keep up with technology that your competitors and other businesses are using is going to be your competitive advantage. Is actually what's going to make your business better and be able to grow faster. Thank you, Tim, and I'll just hand it back.
Cool. Thank you very much, Michael. And yeah, look, I suppose one of the key takeaways with adopting AI is it's not going to make your staff or even a potential hacker have more access to your data. It's just going to make it more discoverable, right? And so that's what we need to tackle with a lot of that stuff. So hopefully everyone can see me. I can't even see myself, but that's all right. Just want to touch a little bit on, I suppose, the law and ethics around using AI before we get into a little bit of a playbook on how to start adopting AI. Today, there's not a whole lot of specific law around like what you can and can't do with AI. As was mentioned earlier, there are, I suppose, policies and laws in draft and being put forward, both here in Australia, in the EU, and across the world as well. All right. However, there's still laws around policy around privacy, data security, and all that kind of stuff. So everything from the OAIC is relevant, even when you're using AI. So your key takeaway is like to protect data, disclose the use of people's data, and very importantly, make sure your privacy policies and agreements are up to date, right? Customers are concerned with data privacy. If I go to the doctor and, tell them everything that's going on with my leg or something like that, is that information then going to be used to train the AI model, right? There's been a lot of high publicity cases around hitting the media where the terms inside of a contract were not clear about how AI was being used on data. And so people took that and said, oh, hey, they're using it to train their data when they're not. And then they cleared it up by putting more clear terms in their agreements and terms of service and all that kind of stuff. So it's important we get a handle on our paperwork as well. All right. So yeah, look, you've still got to take data privacy seriously. I think there's a duty to disclose, so letting people know that AI is in use and how it is being used, right? And still a duty to protect as well. So anything that you put into an AI model or anything that it generates out, if it is personally identifiable information or private information, it still needs to be protected. So a very important consideration to have when implementing some of these tools is that if you suffer a data breach and a AI tool was leveraged to affect that data breach, it does not all of a sudden give you carte blanche to say, well, it's not our software, we're not responsible. You are the one with the most direct relationship with the client. You are the one that is responsible for trying to keep their data safe. So it's important to review any sort of AI application before you implement it inside of your business. Right? If you're used to something like Chat GPT or Claude AI and you want to get started with that because it's very familiar for both you and your staff, you can actually run essentially a private version of it using Azure OpenAI and a couple of various tools. The way that model works is you get charged per query. It's very, very cheap. It can sometimes even be cheaper than Chat GPT subscriptions. For example, my 4.0 mini query there cost me 0.000198 cents. Dollars, sorry, not cents. So fractions of a cent anyway. All right. Anything done in here, those queries are stored inside of Australia or on your own hardware. The processing, so the AI model that takes the query and gives you a response back, it may be outside of Australia though, so keep that in mind, but it doesn't store the information, it just processes it and sends it right back. It also doesn't train your AI model on that data that you put in. So this won't have any access to any of your SharePoint data or any other data. It's only what you specifically put into it. So it can be a much more easy start or a private start for using AI, especially if you just want a basic large language model. And look, any good AI implementation comes with a plan, right? Your desire to implement AI will fail if it's not supported from the top down. So you need to get your executive buy-in. You need to consider if the data that you're handing to these AI tools is considered personal or private, and put the right amount of controls in or the right consideration for it. A strong thing that I would put forward is to focus on real solutions that give you ROI. There's been a lot of disillusionment around AI tools and their return on it because I think people have been doing a bit of a shotgun approach rather than solving real problems inside their business. And of course, always get your IT guys involved as early as possible. They will be an integral part of planning your AI adoption journey. All right, next, I highly recommend bringing your entire team into the process, right? You need to give them time to train and learn on these tools, provide the adequate coaching and education. I usually encourage people to pick a few key people inside your organization to be the champions, those who are most enthusiastic about it to help drive those successful results. And of course, as always with implementing any project, define what that successful implementation looks like. So we need to measure it afterwards. So if we're saying we want a faster turnaround on our sales, right, define that, measure it to see the impact that comes out. Then once you've got the plan in place, look, get your data AI ready. We're all victims of this, of filing things in our own way. I've certainly walked into organizations and there's a folder for every employee, and under those employees there's a folder for every client they manage, and under those clients there's subfolders of all different types of namings, and then data is duplicated, copied around the place, and you've got 6 different versions of the same thing. And so you want to try to start doing a bit of data governance cleanup, and it's a good time to go and review your security controls as well. There's also great tools in Microsoft 365 like Purview. It's included in a lot of licenses, at least at the basic level, to do things like document classification, so it can be encrypted and unreadable from other tools, even AI if you want to do it. It just takes a bit of planning and time. And then finally, go work on your implementation and building out that security posture. So if you're already a cyber-first organization and you've been firing towards things like the Essential 8 controls from the ACSC, you'll be in a good position to start with. But with every step of your AI adoption, start with those questions of, is it secure? What data is it handling? Where is it going to live? All those kinds of things. You don't need to answer all that yourself, right? Partner with a good IT provider or give me a call, and have your IT professionals liaise with these AI providers to get those answers for you and bring those concerns to you. You don't need to go and do all this legwork yourself. And then finally, measure the impact. So we set our goal of what a successful implementation looked like before. Now go back and look at those stats and see how well it's been implemented, if there's any rough areas that need to be looked at, and get feedback from the people using it. You know, your own view of AI tools or how well it's working for you is all great, but then if half of your team struggles with it and they go back to Chat GPT, we don't want that. Okay. And I know I just spoke a lot about planning for AI, but Microsoft does have a Copilot offer as well, that if you sign up for at least 10 users, up to a maximum of 300, they'll give you 15% off the subscription for the first year. Annual upfront is what we do. I think it's around about, and please don't quote me on this, but around about $500-ish per person per year for Microsoft 365 Copilot for everything that's in there. And that promotion lasts until December 31st. So I know we're all trying to wind down, but if you want to take advantage of this offer, reach out to me as soon as you can. Finally, if you're wanting to talk to any of the people that spoke today, or they mentioned anything that was of interest of you, here's their contact information again, including myself. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions. I can get you in contact with the right people as well. My entire job is building the right connections with the right people and getting you through to the right solutions. We have we're over time by 8 minutes. So I see we've had a couple of people that couldn't stay for much longer than that. But if we take a quick look at the Q&A session, we had Alistair ask about, is Copilot included in Microsoft 365 subscriptions, or is it included in a slimmed down version and extra subscription required for the full version? You'll really need to talk to your IT provider about the kind of licensing you're on, because yes, there are little Copilots peppered all over the place. There's one built into Windows that's very basic. There's one that's a little bit more advanced. It's more about the chatbot side that's in things like Microsoft 365 Business Premium. And then the full Copilot suite that you saw earlier is that full license. And I'm going to thank Alistair for asking all these questions, because he's the one who put them all in there. He mentioned that AI tools appear to include a warning with responses along the lines of, this might be wrong, don't trust it. So does this mean when using AI to summarize content, will we still need to go back and read the full text to find out if the AI summary is right or wrong? If we rely on the AI summary for work and it's wrong, then who is responsible for that resulting error? Ultimately, it is you who deals with the response from that AI that is responsible for it. You need to check it. That's why they put those disclaimers there. And you can almost treat AI like an intern that doesn't have any of the context around who your clients are or customers are and all that kind of stuff. You know them best, so you can spot those little mistakes easier. I would highly recommend, yes, you always review notes that you get out of AI for accuracy. I know because we've onboarded a client with Filenote as well, that they keep a copy of the full transcripts and all that kind of stuff as well, so that if you have your generated file notes and your transcript, you can always go back and refer to what was actually said, right? And go and fix them up. But from what I've seen of AI generated content, I've nearly always had to do a little bit of cleanup, but it's been far shorter than writing it all myself manually. I'll tell you that straight away. It's like 5 minutes of cleanup versus 30 minutes of sitting down trying to write a whole document. So that works well. And then I have finally, if we use Copilot for confidential information, does this add to the LLM and possibly get used for other people's queries? For example, could it breach confidentiality, and should we be telling staff not to use AI tools for confidential information? That is correct. You should only have AI tools that are vetted and approved inside your organization being used. Now, saying to do or telling your staff to do one thing is all well and good, but as mentioned by Michael, you need to actually put controls in place. So DNS filtering is a great way to do it. You can block AI websites through DNS filtering and approve only the ones you approve to try to force a kind of compliance. You can't always solve all HR issues with IT solutions, but it can get you quite a bit of the way there. I think that was about it in the Q&A, unless anyone's got something in the chat. No?
I think you covered
Perfect.
everything.
Well, look, normally I try to finish these a little bit earlier to give you guys back some time of your day, so I'm happy for those of you who stuck around for the whole thing. Yes, if you have any questions, please do reach out. We'll be happy to help anytime. I'd like to thank all of our speakers, Ksenia, Dina, Haley, Michael, and gosh, who am I forgetting? I'm worse with names.
Yourself, maybe?
Myself? Sure. Yes, I'll do that. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you soon.